Everybody, and welcome to live stream number 47. Today is Friday. We made it, man. Friday, and I only did 4 live streams this week. Just seems like a long week. But it's Friday. It is August 18th, and like I said, this is live stream number 47. Today's topic is an intro into parameters inside of Fusion 360. Now, down in the description area, you will find my email address, lars.christensen@autodesk.com. You're definitely more than welcome to email me with any future topics you would like to see. Today's topic is inspired, well, by a few people, a few of you guys who request to see something with parameters, but Vas emailed me the other day in regards to a problem he had, and that's what we're kind of like gonna, well, bounce off that, I guess. See, we already got a few people in here, not even up on a minute. Love it. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Bob. Really appreciating you guys taking the time out of your busy Friday to join. So, like I said, an intro into parameters. That is probably a good thing to know about when it comes to Fusion 360. So, I will jump back into the live chat in just a second. Let's get to it. So, not trying to scare anybody. Don't worry, there is 6 months till Valentine's, so don't just relax, guys. It's okay. You got plenty of time to go shopping. But Vas reached out to me yesterday about that he had some issues scaling some odd shapes, and a heart was one of them. Now I actually don't know if it was a human heart or like this type of heart, but this was what I kind of got modeled up here. Now you should know that up in the modify drop down, there is a scaling button up here, and I don't know why it's not quite working for Vas. I didn't see his model, but if you do have some issues, another way to deal with this is something called parameters. You can actually incorporate some math and some different factors into your part. Now, this model we're looking at here, a heart, I kind of like turned it into a box. So if I just go over here and right click and hit move copy, and let's move this up, you will see that this is kind of like a box, a lid in here. And actually, at the end of talking about these parameters, I think I'm gonna just take 2 minutes and kind of like take you the way how I model this up. I have said before that, I think one of the ways that I got better at modeling was seeing somebody else modeling up, and this was kind of like an interesting, I think, little way that I did this could be helpful for somebody, maybe not. So we have this this box, and what I want to say to Vas is I'm going to go in and show kind of like an intro to the parameters, and hopefully by seeing this you can kind of like see how you could work with this. So in this case here, the way that I have used parameters in the past have been if I have to go in front of a customer and present in front of a customer, a design. And actually, I had a good friend of mine who a long time ago told me that one of the best practices he had started doing when he had to model something up was to try to think ahead for what the customers could come back and ask for. And this specific box, a typical example when you get in front of the customer is that they might say, well, what if it was a little narrower? What if it was a little deeper? Different wall thickness in the box. And parameters is one way that you could kind of like take the design and control it. So let me show you what I'm talking about. This, I'm not going to go through the entire thing right now, how I modeled it up. I'm going to do that in the end. But one of the things you will see here, if I go into the first sketch in here, let's go ahead and hit edit sketch, you will see that the basic heart is controlled really only by 3 dimensions. There is what I will call a width, there is a length, and then there is a diameter of these two circles. So it's really just two circles and two tangent lines. That's all this is made up, like the general shape is made out of. Now, I know that a customer might, when they look at this heart, might say, all right, so this is, if we're looking at it from the top, this is fairly good heart shape, but what if, the radius here was a little bit bigger? What if this ring was a little shorter, a little fatter, whatever you want to call it? And of course, in standing in front of the customer, you could go in here and edit the sketch. And I could go in here and say, well, I'm going to make this, 5 inches instead of 6, and sketch. And then we could take a look at that result. We could go in here and play with those different values. But I actually know that I have a couple of issues with this model. For example, if I decide to make this width 5 inches, you can see that these two circles now are getting, too far from each other. And actually, if I go out of the sketch, you'll see that it turns into, I don't know what this is, 2 cups or something, right? So I know that there's a couple of issues with this. Now I can go 4.5 right on the edge, and then I get a heart. So some of the things we can control in here is these kind of dimensions. Now, so I just brought that up, that if I made this 5, then this here would be separated, and you saw the model blow up. I could prevent that by making this dimension the same as this dimension. Then it would never blow up. Then when this becomes 5, then this will become 5. And this is maybe the first entry into parameters. Because check this out. If I go into this 4.5 dimension, I have that one open. If I go up and click on this 4 dimension up here, and you can see if I hover over it, you see how it says D2? That dimension there actually has a D value. And that is actually in the order you put in your dimensions. So this is a D2. Now, with this diameter open, I double-clicked on it. I could change the diameter of the circle. But if I go up and click on this up here, I'm actually saying that I want this dimension, the diameter dimension, to be D2, what is when this one is. So if I hit enter right now, this actually changed to 4. And no matter what I change, if I change this one to 5, well, then this becomes 5, because this dimension is following this dimension. You get what I'm saying? So that is kind of like the entry into parameters, that you can actually deal with this in this order. And you will see that when I go into the parameters in a second, that this D2 will show up for this. So let's do that. Let me just stop the sketch and we get back out and get our part here. So change parameters is sitting under the modify tab, and it's right here, change parameters. And you get this dialog that opens up. Now this dialog is broken into 3 sections. There is all the dimensions and features from your model. So this model parameters represent all the values down in your feature tree. Now, on top of that, you got user parameters. So this is your parameters, and then you actually get a favorite in the end, what could probably be very handy when you create a bunch. But if I go into that original sketch we just looked at, hit the little arrow, you will see in here that the diameter dimension is equal D2, right? That's what we just changed. You will see that there's a linear dimension that is 4, that's the width, and there's a linear dimension that is 6, that is, this is the width, and that is the length. So right now we haven't done anything, but this is kind of like how everything lives in here, including a lot of different options. So if I go in here and create a user parameter, I'm going to create this one by clicking this little green plus. then I get this little pop-up that enters up here, and I get to enter a name. I get to enter a kind of a rule, I guess it's called a unit, but that could be length. But you will actually see if you scroll down here, there's angle, currency, mass, percentage, temperature. Like, I mean, you start thinking now that holy moly, there is some power in here. So if I go in here, and I'm working in inches for this, so I'm going in inches, I get to add an impression, and then I can actually also add a comment. I'm going to get to that in a second. So I'm going to write the first one. I'm going to call this one width. I'm going to type width, and then I got to give it some kind of a value. And I just do what I want to replace to start out with. So in this case, it's 4. I'm going to change that later, and I'm going to hit OK. And now you will see that width is a user parameter. Width is in inches. It's 4. Expression is 4. The value is 4 inches. What I can do now is I can actually go down to, this is the width of the heart. Hope you're following me. That is that 4 inches across. I'm going to take the time to go out of this so we can. I just want to make sure that if you're brand new to this can be a little confusing. I'm talking about, this is the 4 inches. This is the width dimension here. Modify, change parameter. That is this one here. Now, right now, this use parameter don't do anything. But if I go down here and change the 4 inches and start typing width, if I can spell, you will see that it actually appears right here. And I can click on it. What I've done now is that I've set the width of that dimension equals my user parameter. So if I just hit enter right now, nothing changes on your screen, right? But if I go up here and I change this to, let's say, 4.5, and I hit enter, look at the heart, then you will see that now this one here drives this width here. Now, this at this point maybe not, super fancy, but I could continue. Maybe I want to do one for the length. So I'm going to go up and hit the plus sign. I'm going to call this one length. I'm going to do that one 6 also and hit OK. And before you saw, I wrote in this area down here. I got length in here. I can actually also go into the sketch itself. So here you will see that now I have this fx up here with this one too, because this fx shows you is run by a parameter. Now if I go into this length and I double click on that one, the 6 inches, I can actually also just type in length here and you will see the user parameter show up in there. So now that is also driven from that table. So if I go back into my table again, you will now see I got length here, I got length here, what means that now I can change to 5, and that will change the model. So I've kind of made these two parameters up here control the width and control the length. Hope that kind of makes sense. Cool. Now, so right now I have two factors that in front of my customer I can control the width or the length. But I know that with this heart, that radius diameter around here, really, I would like to be able to at least do something with it. Though that we learned before that if I just have a value in here, and I could change this one back to the original value, 4.5, that I know that if I make this one 5, then this one will blow up. Well, we could possibly create some kind of a rule for this diameter. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. I could say that I want to be able to change a value and have it added on to my part. Meaning, if I go in here right now and create a new rule, And I'm going to call this one diameter plus. And I'm going to just give it a value of 100 thousandths. Now again, this one don't do really anything at this point. If I create another value, and I'm going to call this one diameter, just to make things a little bit easier, then inside of the expression in here, I could just, right now I'm just going to type in the 4.5 we have in here, and then change this one to diameter. Now, this is driving the, now we're kind of like back to where I was before. This here is driving the diameter, but I still have the same problem as I had before, that if I change this one to 5, then this one the thing will blow up. So I could go in and say something like the width, that's the width parameter, right? That width plus that diameter plus. Like that there. And hit enter. Now width plus diameter plus, so this width plus this diameter plus is now what diameter is. What means that no matter what I'm changing, if I'm changing this one to 5 now, this will automatically become 5.1, so that is not blowing up. Plus, I could go in here and change this value to something higher than this value. So I just gave myself a little bit of flexibility in here to mess around with this hard in front of a customer and know that things are not gonna blow up. Now, these formulas in here, you can go crazy, and if you go down the description area, you will see that of this video that I added a link to a parameter list that is on the Fusion website, and in there you will see all the stuff, you can do. So definitely check that out. Now, another thing I said before was that the customer might also come back and talk about this shell out I have. So if I turn the analysis back on in here, is it okay to this? Oh, maybe I was messing around with my model. Okay. Let's go into section analysis. We have this shelling area in here, and actually I don't want to do it right there. I want to do it, not that plane, this plane there. I want to do it right here because I got to show you something. Like that. Can we see it? We can see it. Give the graphics a second to update. All right, so we will see here that we have this shelling here in the bottom piece. We also got a shelling, of course, of the same up on the top lid. And then we got this factor in here. Now, the shelling, the thickness of this case, is controlled by 2 shell commands. One for the bottom, one for the top. And if I go into my parameters, you will see that those 2 shells are sitting right here. Right now, they're both 100 thousandths. So, in front of the customer says, hey, what if we made this a little thicker? I would right now have to go in and change those 2 shell thicknesses. With the parameters, I can go in here, create a new parameter, call this thickness, and I'm just going to make it again 100, hit OK. So now I got this thickness parameter, and now I could just go in here and change these to read the same thickness, right? So now this thickness of these walls is controlled one spot. There was actually 2 before, but now if I go in and change this to, let's say, 0.15, you will see that it's going to change the thickness of both bodies. Ha! That is pretty cool, right? Now, when I did this, when I modeled this up, I wasn't so smart that I was thinking about every scenario. And I realized that this lip that is connecting the bottom and the top together, that they are actually not following when I change the thickness, and that might be embarrassing in front of my customer, right? Because that should probably be about the same thickness here. Now that one is, I actually know, is driven by this sketch right here. What is just a simple little line and a line that is driving this. And you will see that when I did this, I had a thickness of 100 thousandths in my originally design. And now I just realized that the customer might ask to make the wall thickness, so this is going to be not right. Again, you can use these parameters, because if I go in and find this 50 thousandths, modify, change parameters. If I go in and find that one, I think that's the sketch right there. You see how that is sitting right there. I could, if I want to be really clever, just do thickness divided by 2, right? Now that 50 thousandths is now controlled by the thickness divided by 2. It means that if I go in and change this thickness parameter up here back to 100, then it's always will be in half of that distance. And when I go in front of my customer, I can hide that, and I now have kind of like narrowed things down. I can literally change things here on the fly without even have to go. Oh, 0.3 is not going to work. Without going and changing anything in there. So I hope that this was helpful. Don't forget, you can always, this is going to come up on the YouTube channel if you're not watching the recording, if you're watching this live. And of course, remember, you can always go back and re-watch kind of like the different steps. But parameters really gives you an option to really control a lot of these kind of things, where you can do kind of like, what do you want to call it, rule based maybe, or whatever you want to call these different things to set your design up. So you go nuts. This again is of course fairly intro in here, and I can see now I got some different errors in here depending on what I'm working on. That's always good. I am not sure. Let's try to change 6.3. If we go back to 100, there we go. So yeah, so that was what I was planning on showing with parameters. So I hope that this kind of like gives you an idea about how to get started with it. And if you go down to that link that I set down in the description area, that's kind of like all the rules. If you scroll down to the bottom of that page, there's also another video there that kind of like takes you through it. So for Vas, I think that this could be helpful to possibly use parameters to control. You can multiply these different dimensions, and hopefully that helps him control this model where the scaling function don't work normally. That was the parameter section of this live stream. I hope it was useful. Now, before I end the video though, I just wanted to take 2 seconds to show you the process of modeling up this heart, because so now we're jumping, forget about parameters, now we're talking more about what I would call advanced modeling, maybe not advanced, but more than kind of like beginner. And if you are a beginner, check this out, because it might make you kind of like just see some other way to do things. And like I said earlier, this kind of stuff was what really taught me to see other people model. So let's go in and look at this before we end the video here. Now, because I got all these different parameters in here, and I don't feel like deleting them, I'm just going to close this model down, and oops, I was not even in the right place. Go back into our live stream, folder and reopen it up again here. So so I start modeling up this heart, and this is just, I guess to me, this is just kind of fun stuff. So so bear with me. So I model up that sketch. You've already seen that sketch 100 times right now. Just extruded it up with a thickness. Of course, thickness could also have been a parameter in our model. Then I added some fillets. And actually, I could add all these fillets on this side and all these outsides, plus the one here in the back in one command. I was kind of surprised about that. Way to go, Fusion developers. But then, when I did this, I realized that I wanted to turn this into a box. So I'm just going to spend 10 minutes and show you how to do that. So what I did, and I don't want to just go through all the workflows because I think that's cheating a little bit. So what I did was I knew that I was going to cut through this part. So I used this offset plane, and I created an offset plane that kind of like cut through the part like this. I'm going to go minus a ½ inch. So now I have this plane, this construction plane right here. Then I went over and I used the split body command under modify. So I hit the split body. I said, all right, there's, right now there's just one body over here. And I'm going to split it. The splitting tool is going to be this plane that we just created, just like that. So now I ended up with two bodies, right? Hide the construction plane. So now I kind of like have two bodies. If I right click and hit move, copy here, you would kind of like see that I split it in two. But it's not really, there's no room in here. So let me go over here. And, well, actually, a good idea over here is probably like renaming these. Lid, slow left click, bottom. Okay. So then if I turn off the lid, I can go in and use that shell command. So under modify, hit shell, and I'm going to select this face here, and I'm going to make a thickness of 100 thousandths. Bam. And I just made sure that there's 100,000 wall thickness all the way around. I'm going to do the same thing for the lid. So turn the lid back on, the bottom off, and let me go in and do the same thing again. Shell command, 100 thousandths. Cool. Now I kind of like had what I wanted. But then, as I was doing this, I realized that normally you have kind of like a lip that is holding on. So right now the lid here could literally just, you could slide off, right? Like there's nothing holding it in place. That's not cool. So I was thinking about that, and I'm like, all right, well, you know what I'm gonna do? I am going to use a revolve. No, sorry, not a revolve. A sweep. I'm gonna use the sweep. But really, what I want to do is I want to cut through existing material. I don't want to add more material. I want to cut with material. So what I did was I actually went in and I hit the lid, and I went in and created a plane that intersects with this edge and this other edge in here. So I could create a sketch right perpendicular on this face here. So construction and plane through two edges, and then you select one face and one edge, and you can select the other edge here. So now I got a plane that looks directly at the direction of that face. So with that, I could go ahead and open up a sketch on that. Of course, I realized that it's kind of hard to look right there, so I went in and I used the section analysis. Kind of like did a section analysis on that plane. Okay, so now I kind of I could see through there. And then actually if I turn the lid back on, you will see that I can see the lid too. So what I did was I opened up a sketch here. And then I really just sketched what I wanted to kind of like slice through. So I created a line out here and a line down here. And then I really just gave them a couple of dimensions. So D for dimension. And this one here, as you saw, I made it 50 thousandths. And this one here, I made 150. That was not 150. 0.15. So now I kind of like have that sketch sitting right on that face there. But like I said, I really don't necessarily want to, I don't really want to add material or remove material. I just want to kind of cut material. So with that, I went over to the patch environment, a surface environment over here. Because remember, if you watched some of the previous videos, surfaces are kind of like non-thick. There's no thickness to them. So I went in here and I created a sweep. So I selected that profile, what is our 2 line segments. And then I selected the path, is this path that actually goes all the way around the heart, like where the kind of like the closing line is. So that goes all the way around. Now, when I hit OK here, you're not going to see anything really happening on the screen other than we just got this surface body here. Now, if I hide the lid, you will see that there is that surface body sitting right on top of there, that it kind of like had no thickness to it, just following those 2 lines around there. But what I could do was I could go in and use that split body again. So if I hide the bottom, turn on the lid, right here, so now we have the lid. Now you still really can't see anything, but if I go in, back to our model environment, go into the split body under modify, and I'm going to split the lid, and the splitting tool is going to be that body over here. So I can select it right over here and hit OK. Now I actually got another body over here. Now it gets a little confusing here, but if I hide the surface and I hide the lid and turn the bottom back again, you will see that now I kind of have that lid there. And if I turn the bottom off, it's kind of like sitting there by itself, cut out by that surface. But what I need to do is I need to add the bottom and that, what is now called the lid, together into one. So there I went and used the combine tool. So I combined the bottom with that body, hit OK. So now I have the bottom, and then I have the lid that also have that little lid on there. So now I have created that that cutout there. Now, this was a little fast, maybe too fast. You can try to watch it one more time. Give me some feedback if this makes any sense or whatever. But I just wanted to show you kind of like this was the steps that I came up with to do that. And there's better ways to do it. I am sure I didn't spend hours trying to think of the best way. This was just kind of like, as I modeled this up, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it like that. 2 things I need to address here. First of all, I would leave this surface body in here with, don't worry about it. It can just be light bulbed out. And also, if you are wondering why I don't have any clearances here, well, then I recommend that you go back and look at the tolerance clearance section we did on here on the live stream. I hope this was useful. Thank you so much for taking the time. We have 77 people in here. I think that's got to be almost a record. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy Friday to join. I hope this was a good intro into the parameters, and I hope that the end, just kind of like going through how I model this up, that is helpful. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. That is kind of like my fuel to keep going. And, the thumbs up if you like it. Be honest. Thumbs down if you don't. I hope that I hope you have a awesome weekend. I hope that you have some good stuff planned. I will do what I normally do. I'll end the broadcast. So if you're watching the recording, thank you so much. And I will jump into the live stream and just say hi to everybody. Until the next time, have an awesome day.